Okay, we're going to replace the back screen cover on a Dell Inspiron 1521. First thing I'm going to do, which I actually already did before I started the tape, and I'm just demonstrating here, taking a little mini screwdriver and I'm prying out the little rubber pieces that are hiding the screws, and that's how you get to get the screen open. Take off those little rubber nubs, and that'll open up the screws for you to unscrew, and then the whole front bezel will come off. Now, I like to keep the screws, as I'm taking them out here, keep them in the same pattern so I know exactly where they go when I put them back, because underneath those rubber nubs that are over the screws, there's glue, and sometimes that glue comes off more on one piece of rubber than another piece of rubber when you're removing them, and if you put them all back in different spots, it's going to be uneven and some might not stick as well. So I like to keep the rubber pieces and the screws going in the same hole as I took them out of. Once you get the screws out, try to find a spot where you could pry the front part of the screen off, the front bezel there, the plastic piece. And once you have one, just kind of follow it around with your fingernail or a piece of plastic or something. Try not to scratch the screen if you're grabbing it from the inside. And once you're sure all the screws are out, you might have to give it a little force to get some of the corners up, but you'll be able to do it if you just mess with it enough and you just keep jiggling it around. I'm actually going to take the hinge cover plate off and see if there's anything under that hinge cover plate that's holding this front panel on. See if it'll make it any easier for us. And just kind of keep inching around, and eventually, if you pull in the right way, it'll come off. Sometimes there's a little bit of glue or tape, sticky tape, under the front bezel of the screen that's holding it to the screen. So on older laptops, you're going to find that. Newer laptops, not as much, but there's one piece here that's just sticking us up. Just going to keep jiggling, and eventually it'll come out. Grab it from the bottom, grab it from the top. See if there's any hinge there that's holding it in. And we're just inching it away, and we finally get it. Notice I didn't force anything. You don't want to force it. You will break something if you force it. Okay, the reason we're replacing this hinge cover plate is the left hinge actually broke away. And sometimes when the hinges break, it's not just the hinge that breaks, it's actually the plate. The back of the screen, that plastic plate, that snaps, and that's where the hinges connect to. So if that snaps, it's just as bad as if you broke a hinge. One of the parts needs to be replaced. So what I'm going to do now is get the screen out. We're going to get the screen out of the picture. We don't want the screen in there for the risk of us damaging it or any other reason. And the way to get the screen out is attack it from the sides. There's 4 screws, or a couple screws sometimes, holding in the screen from the side. And once you get those 4 tiny screws out on each side, the screen should just pop right out. So we'll see if that happens here. This laptop has a webcam. Sometimes a webcam makes it a little tougher too. Okay, let's get the other side now. It's always little tiny Phillip head screws holding them in from the side, holding the screen in. And you'll see how the screen will pop right out once we get those screws out. Now these screws, it doesn't matter which, if you put them back in different holes, because there's no glue on them like the front bezel screws. Okay, now we're going to flip that screen up, see if it'll pop out. Now it did pop out, but if you noticed, that ribbon cable going up to the top of the screen was attached to the webcam. It is not meant to be yanked out like I did. Luckily, it didn't break. It actually just popped out of the connector there. But you got to be careful when you're dealing with webcams to unhook the ribbon cable from the webcam before you pull the screen down. So that was a no-no what I just did, but I'll keep it in the film anyway. And then I'm going to squeeze both sides of the LCD connector right where it connects to the screen. There's two little connectors. You got to squeeze them and pull outwards, and then that will disconnect the LCD cable from the screen. And we're going to disconnect the LCD cable from the inverter. Now there's the screen and the inverter still connected. We're just going to take that, put it to the side for now. Going to get that big LCD cable out of the way. And then see what we have to do to actually get this back plate off. And one of the things we need to do is get under the bottom of the computer, because if you just notice there, the wires for the wireless antenna were coming up and they actually attach to the back plate of the screen. We got to pull those wires through the bottom of the laptop and get them out of the picture. And then we put the new back plate on. It will have new wireless antennas, and we have to feed them through the computer. Okay, there's two holding the wireless card in here, or attached to the wireless card here. And then there's like 3 other ones that are meant for like a Bluetooth and maybe a WAN card, which this computer does not have, but the antennas are still there. So we got to pull like 5 wires through the hole here. Okay, can't really see from this angle, but you'll be able to see as I pull it out. Okay, I'm just pulling them through the bottom of the laptop, and then I got them all up to the